There's another possibility, and that's a share situation where you have about 30 cows that you could be shared with you. You'd pay all the direct costs, do all the labor, and
Yep.
then you'd split the calf crop 60-40. You get 60, he'd get 40,
Yep.
right?
Exactly.
Okay. So here's the scenario. For here, Caden's paying all the direct costs, open the direct costs. The anticipation is like $500 per breeding animal. Look at inventory appraisal. Since you don't own the bulls and the cows, we put 0 in for those. Now, right now in that herd, they're all mature cows, so there's no H2s or H1s, but as they develop over time, over the next few years, then there's a value for them, then that'll be your portion. You wanted to save breeding replacements, and then those animals that you're saving that are growing and developing would become yours. So over time, more of the herd is yours, right?
Yeah.
Look at the retained for breeding replacements. So that keeps it even. And so the herd numbers are staying relatively constant, started at 31, ending at 31. But those animals are going to be yours. So over time, the ownership of the herd will shift over probably the next 4 or 5 years. Most of that herd is going to be yours. The situation we looked at was since he owns the cattle, then all the cull animals, he gets the money for all the cull animals.
Yeah.
Look at year one profit and loss. So this is on a 60-40 split. This is your portion of the profit. You would be reimbursed $12,741 for the first year, and then $11,247 for the second year. Go to the gross margins. That's your gross margin. That's what you're going to get. I don't think you inputted any labor costs, right?
No.
Yeah. So this would be your return for the work that you did. You would own more cattle. That's included in your profit. Look at the cash flow. The difference is there, 24 minus 17. It's about 7,000, I think 7,200. That's the amount of money you're going to get in pocket, okay, the first year. And the rest of it's going to be increased value of cattle that you own. And then the next year, it's going to be a little less, about a $4,000 difference in cash flow, but more value in animals. You're not getting a lot of money, cash out of it.
Yeah.
But you are getting increase in value.
So now say we wanted to keep that going. Maybe we put replacement heifers to 0, and then we have to purchase a set.
Well, let's go back and do that.
Plug that in and see how that'd change. Maybe that's something to consider as well.
One of the things that we adjusted there, because you guys are splitting the price, right?
Yeah.
You're splitting the price. So go to sales price. So because you were keeping a third back, so you weren't receiving the full value, so you were losing a third of the value of your calves. 60% is $1.92, but then you're losing a third because you're retaining it. The cash that you got back is $1.28 per heifer calf. Change that price to $1.92. And so now let's look at the profit and loss. 12,700 before, up to 16,900. Your herd starts shrinking a little bit, right? Because you have those open cows that were sold and the dry cows. But that's one way you could work it, but that herd gets smaller, but over time. Or he keeps the replacements and you keep doing that work and he keeps getting that return. If he wanted to cover it, right, and keep those replacements to keep the herd the same size, then you would just continue to pretty much get that 16,000. Over time, more and more of the herd is yours. You're getting 100% of more calves.
Mm-hmm.
Your portion is growing, and his is shrinking as those older cows get called out.
Right.
So that's at 60-40. If you say those cows are each worth, say, $2,200 a piece.
Yeah, 66,000.
Yeah, plus a bull, say 5,000 there. He's got $71,000 that he's invested. His return at that, he gets about a 20.7% return on his investment. Now, I thought maybe we'd look at what would a 75-25 look like. We go to sales, and the sales price for the heifer calves would be $1.60, and it'd be $2.40 for the steers. And go then to inventory appraisal. His value in the steer calves would shift to 750 heifer calves as well. And so that change in the profit and loss, that's better for you, right?
Yeah.
Better for you. It's not better for him. Now, I'd pay attention mostly to those first 2 years because there's going to be a shift in ownership over time to you. Right?
Yep.
And then also look at the cash flow, 13,444. So that's what you would get instead of the 7,242. At that level, I ran it for him. His return would be about 11%, maybe a little low for him, because he's got some risk. He's letting you use his animals and could be risky. Also looked at a third one, 70-30. For him, it's going to be about a 14.5% return, and he'll make about 11,600 the first year and similar number, 11,291 the second year. So that's a pretty decent return for him. And Caden, at that level, you'd make about 14,000 a year. So that's kind of to look at that shared situation. Okay. Knowledge is power, right? I mean, you can see what's going on. You can see where you're going to make money and how, at what break point that you're going to make money. And otherwise, it's a shot in the dark. It's really so complicated. It gives you the power to negotiate because, you have that information.
Yeah, for sure.
Here is another scenario, Caden. So instead of sharing cattle, he just simply takes out a loan and buys those cows and does it himself. How does that look in terms of his cash flow? How does that look in terms of his profit and loss? Is he ahead or behind doing it that way? Basically all the same numbers, but you're getting now 100% of the sales, 100% of the expenses. Had you take out a 5-year business loan just to do it over this period of time, $71,000, 5 years. There's some pitfalls with this one, right? Because you're buying these cows right now, but you're not going to have a weaned calf for more than a year.
Yeah.
So you see the cash flow, you got 5,099 coming in and 32,500 going out. Tighten your belt loop here the first year for sure. Now, the reason for that, of course, is you're paying off that loan. You go down to current year cash flow, cash overheads and debt payments, right? Plus your direct costs, those cash direct costs that you have. So it's a tough first year, but let's go back to profit and loss. So as you look at the annual profit and loss, the first year is tough, but look at what you make the second year, right?
Yeah.
Second year, you're making $27,252. You're going to make $27,000 a year for the same amount of work instead of, $13,000, $14,000 a year with paying off your loan.
Yeah, it's really cool to look at that too, because I wouldn't even really even considered how to play that all out. That's a big part of this too, ranching, and especially starting from the beginning.
It's not like your family's all in the cattle business and you've grown up with this stuff. I mean, talk about taking the bull by the horns, right? So cash flow issues, but way more profit. Just to keep in mind, it's a little bit risky doing that, right? Because cattle prices are high right now.
Yeah.
So those are some risks about that.